equipping you to think well about culture and create conversations that lead to wisdom. This is the THINQ podcast. Hi, welcome back to another edition of the THINQ podcast. I'm your host, Gabe Lyons, and today we're really exploring this intersection of faith, creativity, and meaningful work with a talk by Matt Impola. Now, Matt is a master craftsman, the founder of Handcrafted Movement, a company dedicated to building intentional, beautiful, and functional spaces. In fact, probably one of the most beautiful top designers of tiny homes. If you followed that movement, he has been one of the best. He's been probably one of the most followed through his Handcrafted Movement Instagram, and just make beautiful things. And so today, I can't wait for you to just hear his perspective on the importance of working with our hands. But before we get into that, I want to remind all of you as we come to the end of April that an important deadline's coming up, and it's your chance to reserve your seats at THINQ Summit 2025, taking place in Nashville, October 2nd to 4th. Now, this is going to be our flagship gathering. It's the first time in 19 years we haven't done Culture Summit in April, but instead decided to combine this with our Next Gen Summit, everything that's been the best of that with our Best of Culture Summit, and create a new experience for all of you to come together, to learn, to enjoy new friendships and relationships, to really get your own hands-on experience to what it looks like to create culture. Everything from music and the arts to business understanding, to everything that is happening in our culture in this current moment. We're going to be creating space for those conversations. You're going to interact with some of the most amazing thought leaders and experts on a variety of topics. But more than anything, you're going to go back equipped not only with new friendships and relationships, but with more confidence in how you're leading right where you're at in this particular cultural moment. So I want to encourage you, don't only think of coming by yourself. Think of how you could bring several of your colleagues, your friends, maybe your coworkers, or those who work with you as part of your team to make this a learning experience this fall that I promise you will bond your team, will create the kinds of conversations you will never have around a staff table unless you get out of the staff room and you get to this place in Nashville to be with us. And so you can learn more about that at thinksummit.com, and you can see that in the show notes. Now, back to the conversation we're going to have today with Matt, a great example of the kind of talks and conversations we should be having, which is how do we work with our hands in the middle of an environment that's really pushing us to only use technology, our minds, but not always learning how to use the skilled craftsmanship that even when we look back to the life of Jesus, this is what he did, right? As a carpenter, he worked with his hands. We believe it's more important than ever in this particular moment that we learn to cultivate skills that require our minds to work in a different way than just tapping on a keyboard, but actually using our hands to create beautiful things in the world. And that's what Matt does. And he really challenges us to rethink the way we approach our work, whether it is working with wood or maybe it is words for you or any other craft, but to see the excellence, the beauty, and the attention to detail as acts of worship. Let's listen in.
Hey, friends. My name is Matt. I'm a craftsman, a builder, an artist, an artisan, and a mentor to the next generation. I've been placed on this earth to use my head and my heart and my hands to display and manifest God as good, true, and beautiful, and to invite the next generation, especially of young men, to do the same. Something I love about God, something I love that he chose to do for me is that he entered humanity, fully God, fully man, as a builder, as a carpenter working with wood and with stone, and then he built disciples, he built the church. So that means a lot for me. And I meet Jesus in the wood shop. I meet Jesus on the job site with my guys. That's my sanctuary. That's my chapel. For about a dozen years now, I've been teaching and training young men in the trades and in life. And I found that young men are just so hardwired to build. They're hardwired for adventure, and they're hardwired to be on mission towards something bigger than themselves. And I know that we've heard the statistics over the morning, the sad statistics of the state of the next generation, but I have so much hope with the guys that I interact with in the daily. When I see a man get a vision, it's a beautiful thing. And we see in the scriptures that without vision, people perish. But when a man gets a vision, he gets a kingdom vision that's compelling and gets him up in the morning. Beautiful things happen for him, for his family, for his neighborhood, for his community. And so that's one of my favorite things to unlock in young men. I want to invite you to go back to childhood with me. I'm going to share a few little snippets of what made me who I am, what got me where I'm going, and just reflect on your own childhood as well. I was a really creative and inventive kid, and I had a really idyllic 90s childhood, living in the country with my 7 siblings. My parents were amazing. My dad was a home builder and a homesteader, and some of my core memories were going to the job site with him on Saturday mornings. I would help by, sweeping up and moving little stacks of lumber. You're not really helping when you're a kid, but one of my favorite things was bringing home the old plywood, the scrap plywood and the 2x4s, and dragging that out in the forest and making the most epic tree houses and tree forts. And when I was 7, I remember I made this 7-story tree house that, granted I was 7, so they weren't like big stories, but that was like a really big accomplishment. That was a core memory. Another formative memory was when I was 13, and we sold the farm and we moved to the cul-de-sac. We moved to the suburbs, and I felt my creativity dying. Through high school, I felt that I was just living out of my head. When I was trying to decide what I was going to do for a career, there was an opportunity to go to college, but there was something pulling me to the family business, to construction. At the time, I saw construction as kind of a less than thing than the university path, but there was something so strong that was pulling me that way, and I didn't want to sit in a classroom for another 4 years and rack up a bunch of college debt. So I jumped in the family business, and I was starting at the bottom, sweeping the streets and cleaning up the garbage, but pretty quickly I was able to rise, and I was managing these construction sites, and we were pumping out hundreds of bland cookie cutter houses. And that was fun for a minute, but it got old real fast. My heart wasn't in it. My hands weren't engaged. I was just managing. And so at 23, I kind of had a transformational sell-all moment and went around the world with a ministry called YWAM, did a DTS, and that really realivened my heart, made me dream again and made me imagine again. And so when I got home from YWAM, I was kind of nervous about what was that going to look like, not being out on the mission field. But I heard God say, buy a saw and buy some wood, and I just started making stuff. And so I started making skateboards and longboards, and that led to furniture and big conference tables. And then about 10 years ago, I decided to make a tiny home on wheels in my driveway. And so I made that, and I decided to put it online, and it went like really viral on the internet. And so I kind of stumbled into this company now called Handcrafted Movement. And with that, it became an amazing opportunity to teach and train young guys all of the skills that go in building a home. And God gave me a principle during that time, Proverbs 22:29. Do you see a man skilled in his ways? He will not stand before unknown men, but he will stand before kings. And so with that, he showed me that if I pursue excellence in my craft, I'm not just going to stand before random people. I'm going to be standing before the kings and the queens of our day, and there will be opportunity to influence them. And so I never imagined just with these silly little homes on wheels that God would put me before amazing people, but he's really done that.
I'm Gabe Lyons, president of THINQ, and I want to invite you to join us for our first ever THINQ Summit 2025, coming to Nashville October 2nd to 4th. For 20 years, we've been creating spaces for leaders to come together, but we've never created a space like this. The amount of interaction, the amount of experiences, the keynote talks, the workshops, the skills you're going to learn, the new friends you're going to walk out of the room with is just going to be second to none. And so as you're making your plans for 2025, put on your calendar now, Thursday, October 2nd through Saturday, October 4th. Go to our website at thinkmedia.com/summit and learn all about the ways you're going to learn and interact with so many different leaders from around this nation. Culture changes when leaders from different channels of culture come together in common purpose. We've designed this summit as a space that's not just about content, but it's about relationships. It's about meeting other leaders that will inspire you, encourage you, and ultimately create culture together. Join us in October 2nd to 4th for THINQ Summit 2025. Learn more at thinkmedia.com/summit.
Fast forward to the spring of 2020. That was a good time in the world. Good time for me anyway. I got engaged to my wife, Elizabeth. And as we were looking for a venue in California for our wedding in her home state, we were running into a lot of problems with the restrictions to do the kind of wedding that we wanted to do. Years prior to that, I had always, on my property, there was a spot in my front yard that I always felt was going to be for a barn and for my wedding someday. And so I shared that vision with her. We ended up building this venue in 60 days. It was really a stressful time, but I rallied my family. We did a good old Amish barn raising and made this beautiful structure. And it was really a glorious time where God was so glorified in that, even though it was very stressful. So I could tell you a ton of testimonies about God at work in craftsmanship. But if you just remember this one thing, I would remember just the title of this, that there is no future of craftsmanship without the next generation. And so we have a significant shortage in the skilled trades. For every 2 that's exiting, only 1 is coming in. And on top of that, we've got a housing shortage of over 4 million right now and growing. So we need, you all have seen the prices of housing. We need more. So we need the next generation to rise. So we need more craftsmen and electricians. We need more plumbers. We need more leather workers. We need more artists. We need more farmers. It's more broadly than just construction. But there is good news. Gen Z's hungry for a career in the skilled trades, I believe, and that's encouraging. I've seen it in my own family with a lot of my nephews choosing to go in the trades, and they're really thriving with that. My own nephew, Logan, dropped out of college early, and he recently moved to Tennessee, and he started a construction company. This kid's 20 years old, and he's totally killing it. He's getting lots of good jobs. He's hiring employees. He's making happy customers. And on top of that, he's been able to buy a fixer-upper house already, and he's working on that by the day and making it awesome. So that's really encouraging to me. So I think there's a future in the trades, and I think it's incredibly bright for those who can recognize the opportunity that we have, that we can meld together the old school traditional craftsman ways of doing things and marry that with the tools and the technologies that we have available to us today that you've probably heard about with AI and so many things. It's really a unique and interesting time to be in the trades. So with that being said, God has called me to establish an apprenticeship school in Franklin, Tennessee, starting this next spring. So I'm gathering a tribe of next-gen men that are eager to get their hands dirty and join the tribe. So if God's calling you to engage in the way that we have with the head, hands, and heart, consider the trades and let's build the future together. Thank you.
Well, Matt reminds us that craftsmanship isn't just about skill. It's about purpose, intentionality, and honoring God through the work of our hands. And I just think for all of us, in a world that's getting more focused on artificial intelligence, on technology doing more for us so that we can have a more easy life, a more convenient life, a life that allows us to not have to think too deeply about many things or not have to do the work that perhaps we look at as work that's dirty or duplicatable or something that just a machine could do for us. That we would re-encounter what it means to work with our hands, to work in the way God's designed us as human beings to function. I can tell you as I work with my hands, whether it's in my yard, it's working with the honeybees that I'm cultivating as a colony, or we have chickens, and I've learned how to harvest meat chickens on our property. When I get out there and actually work with my hands, it's an amazing thing. Even later this afternoon, I'm going to be cutting down trees and chopping wood and getting things prepared for the next season of fall and winter. These are the kinds of rhythms that as human beings really do bring us to life. And anytime we do these things, we do walk away going, man, that felt good. I'm probably a little sore in some places. I didn't realize I would be sore in, but I feel good. I feel like the work I'm doing is meaningful. I feel like I'm doing some things that I as a human being were created to do. And so if this talk resonated with you, I would encourage you. The next gen's getting more interested in what it means to work with their hands. They've been delivered a culture that really pushes them towards a screen and away from this type of work. And I would encourage you, listen to this talk with them. Go to thinkmedia.com. You can watch this talk this week. It'll be right on our homepage. You can get a Think Media account so that you have access to not only this talk, but hundreds of others. And I would encourage you to take advantage of that to create conversations that lead to wisdom.